Hey guys, Agent of Doubt here for another ramble, and once again I will be proving that I'm probably the worst SJW in the world, meant in a different way. Because I always have my doubts about, the end result of when you take things to their logical, extreme conclusion. It's like, damn, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, I just became aware of the Ralph Northam story. Basically, he's the Virginia governor who just had a picture of his yearbook come out, where on the page that was dedicated to him, there was an image of a guy in blackface and a guy in a KKK outfit. And they were both drinking beer. And when it came out, within like 24 hours, there was a apology on Ralph Northam's website saying, I'm sorry for that image that I appeared in and the hurt it caused, right? And then there was a video of him apologizing for that image. And then, wait a little while, and he comes out with another statement on it, which is completely the opposite. And he says, that wasn't me in the picture. After everybody else has already taken his word for it that he's apologizing for being in the photo, then he just like completely backtracks and says, wait a second, that's not me in the photo. Now, how could something like this happen? A lot of people were probably like, well, now he's just lying. Now he just doesn't want to face the music and lose his governorship over this, so he's trying to try a different tactic by saying that he was mistaken before. But we gotcha, motherfucker. It's not working, right? That's probably a lot of people's attitudes towards this, but I have a different one. Seeing a lot of the people that I used to enjoy in the entertainment world being taken down by the Me Too movement. And I'm at a point where I'm wondering if Listen and Believe has been taken so far that if you are somebody on the left, if you're a Democrat, if you're a person in the entertainment world who has made many positions known that you are supporting left issues, that if somebody makes an accusation about you, the first step in the playbook of what to do if somebody makes an accusation about you is to own it and say, I'm sorry. Right? Because you don't just listen and believe when somebody makes an accusation that they were raped a couple years ago by somebody that you were watching on TV. You don't just listen and believe the accuser, the victim, as it were. You don't just listen and believe them. You listen and believe the people who accuse you of things from years back, and it's because of this culture that everybody around you in your circles that are also liberal are going to be listening and believing your accuser, and if you don't want to lose them, if you don't want to immediately become at odds with them, you must now listen and believe to the people who are accusing you of things as well. And a lot of people just cannot fathom how this yearbook photo that got out, this page that got out, could have not been him, But he's made a statement that he did not purchase that yearbook when it came out. Right? And a lot of people don't. I only did 2 of the 4 years that I was in high school. I only did 2 of my yearbooks. The last 2 years. I don't know, why I didn't buy the other 2 years. But, yeah. People just decide, it's not worth it, right? What if somebody on the yearbook committee snuck in that picture as a joke? Or as a very spiteful joke? Maybe back in the 80s we had trolls too, right? And those trolls had to work within the mediums that they have. There was no internet, per se, and there was no real way for them to express themselves except through, bathroom wall poetry, and being on yearbooks and zines and small publications, right, where they could do things like manipulate images. And when I look at this image, I actually cannot tell if it is him, right? The blackface character, for one, has particularly black hands too. That's a good addition if you're going to cosplay as a blackface character, right? You got to have the whole thing together. But the face itself, to me, reminds me of, because it's so obscured, the photo is just not a good photo. It reminds me of Leatherface, the Mask, rather than somebody in blackface. It looks like the Elephant Man, right? Like, how are you supposed to pull out defining features from this? And the original yearbook committee would have seen, well, you can't really, this is a horrible picture, And then the other one is of a person in a hood from the KKK with, the face completely obscured. You really can't tell who it is, and you wouldn't have been able to tell way back when, right? So the portraits that are in there, he would have had to have had submitted his pictures to have those pictures there, or he would have been photographed by the yearbook committee in those different poses, which is not very likely. They look like professionally done pictures. So he's got a good picture of himself in a suit. He's got himself kind of in the Captain Morgan's pose in a cowboy outfit out in the woods. And it looks like a really well done portrait. He's got himself next to a Corvette, where he's, obviously flaunting his already lavish lifestyle when he's only just beginning his medical career, right? He's got those 3 professionally done portraits, and then this one candid, where you can't even tell that it's him, that is not something you'd want out if you were going to be a doctor, right? So I'm thinking, is this a fucking troll? Way back in the day, is this somebody who was just trying to hurt him way back then, and now it's just finally come out? If it wasn't him. But also, the quote underneath it, if you read on the page, the quote underneath it does not sound like somebody who wants to be a doctor either. It says, "There are more old drunks than old doctors in this world, so I think I'll have another beer." It just does not fit with the image of somebody who went through the trouble of taking those other 3 photos, and somebody who's gone through the hardship of going through med school. Why would you try to sabotage yourself by doing that in a yearbook? And I've seen a lot of silly things make it into yearbooks, but this is like a yearbook for med school, not for high school. This is like when you're way more serious than high school. expensive university to become Dr. Serious. And I have enough room in my doubts to give him a listen and say, well, why did you apologize first? Because I can imagine people behind the scenes, like the entire Democratic National Committee, calling him up saying, you better apologize now or you're going to lose your job. We're all going to shun you. Right? You need to do something about this quick. You need to make a statement right now apologizing because this is about to blow up in the news. And I can imagine his private line to all the rest of the Democrats just blowing up with messages like that. And so he was under extreme pressure to own it because of the extremist conclusion of listen and believe. And then when he wants to actually have people analyze the photo, like say, put it under facial recognition and see the spacing of the eyes, look at the hands to see if those hands could have been his hands, if there's something about his hands that's different than those hands. When you want to look at the height of the people in the photo, and compare to his height, when he wants to prove that that's actually not him in the photo. Maybe he wants to do an image search and find that it's actually an image that was published somewhere else even earlier than that yearbook. Nobody's listening because they've already heard what happened in the news cycle, when it was salacious. They don't want to hear the explanation, right? So a man's career could be ruined by a troll from the 80s, and people just aren't willing to listen because they've already got it in their heads that these accusations are true. And I'm still kind of really let down by the last season of House of Cards. Seriously, just I wanted better closure than that. And I don't know when it's going to stop. When is anything that I'm watching going to not be touched by the Me Too movement and spoiled and ruined and have the direction of it changed because of things that, immediately after an accusation, the people in the entertainment industry who most often lean towards the left more, they're just going to immediately admit to anything. And then, once they do, most likely other people who also want to have their 15 minutes of fame, because there's always a couple kooks out there, they're going to jump on the bandwagon and then add to, the list of accusations. And then, because the public doesn't understand argumentum ad populum, they're going to think, well, the more accusers there are, the more likely that they were guilty in the first place. And yeah, this is just another of the things that I'm just wondering, what have we done to our culture that we don't, we don't give it a second look. We don't give people, what we do is we give them a trial by media rather than a proper trial. That's what happens. A trial in the court of public opinion, and unfortunately, the public opinion has a very short attention span and only hears the first soundbite. So, ramble over. See you next time.